Morning. Welcome. It's good to see everybody. Appreciate you coming out. Want to, before we start, extend a special welcome to the Bowen family. Appreciate you guys being here, and we're excited to have you. Exciting day for Arkansas State University and for the athletics department. Just want to, as usual, walk everyone through this process before we begin. We will first hear from System President Dr. Chuck Welch. We will then introduce our Chancellor, Kelly Damphousse, followed by our new Vice Chancellor for Intercollegiate Athletics, Tom Bowen. Once he's finished his comments, we will open it up to questions and answers from the media. There's 2 mics in the front, guys, and 1 mic in the back. I'll go over that one time before we get started with the Q&A, but at this time, it's my pleasure to introduce our President, Dr. Chuck Welch.
Thank you, Jerry, and good morning. It's great to be with all of you. I'll be very brief. I want to start by just welcoming and thanking a couple of individuals in particular. I know we have our esteemed Mayor, Harold Copenhaver, here somewhere. I've lost him, but there he is. Mayor, we appreciate you being here and your continued support of our program and the city. I want to thank our Board of Trustees has once again allowed us to really flourish and grow this program. And Paul Roughton, who's one of our newest members of the Board of Trustees, is here today. Paul, appreciate you being here. Larry Worsham, who's president of the Red Wolves Foundation right now. Obviously, we couldn't do this without the private support, and we appreciate you, Larry. Davey Carter, another great supporter who's been very helpful. Actually, the first time we talked to Tom, Davey, your name came up. So, because I know you guys had met one another in the past, and we appreciate you being here as well. You know, when I think back over the last 8.5 years, all that's changed. I was privileged to have the opportunity to hire Terry Mahajer and how far he took this program and how excited we are about the growth. And I think about how far we've come, then I think about where we can go and what we can do. And when Dr. Damphousse asked me if I would assist him in this process and work through it, we both agreed at the beginning that we wanted to take our time, we wanted to be methodical, we wanted to make sure that we got the right fit for where our program is at this particular point in time and where we want it to be over the course of the next decade. And we had an extraordinary number of applicants and individuals that were interested in the position that we talked to, but Tom kept coming back to our conversations because of his experience, because of the transformative work that he did both at San Jose State and at Memphis as an athletic director, because of the fact that there are 4 sitting ADs at the G5 and P5 levels that worked for Tom in their career and that he helped mentor and develop, and because he had a true vision for what this program, athletics program, could be, the way that we continue to build off of our past successes, and the way that we can have a comprehensive approach to success across the entire department and ensuring that we have the right mix of financial management, fundraising, vision, organization, and long-term success. And so I'm thrilled to be here today. Chancellor, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to be a part of this and appreciate your leadership and friendship. And I think you've done an outstanding job, and I'm excited, Tom, to welcome you and Mia and Peter, the rest of your family, to Jonesboro and to Arkansas State University. We certainly have bright days ahead, and we appreciate it. And with that, I want to introduce our Chancellor, Dr. Kelly Damphousse.
Thank you, Chuck. I want to start off by thanking Chuck for being part of this process. Early on, when I decided I wanted to involve him, I asked him if he would. He certainly jumped in really quickly, but you know, he had a great experience hiring Terry. He'd been through that process before. He's been a wonderful soundboard for me to bounce ideas off and questions off. He was involved from the very beginning as we developed our profile and has been a great partner on this. So thank you very much, Chuck, for your participation in this search. I also want to thank Turnkey ZRG, who was our search consultant, especially Chad Chatlos and Katie Young-Stott. From the very beginning, they really impressed us with their breadth of knowledge of the people who were interested in our position and who might be a good fit for us for where our institution and where our athletics program is right now. Their sense early on that this is a lot different job than it was when Terry came here, and that's because of the work that Terry and the board and Chuck have allowed us to do here. But they gave us great comfort in knowing that in the end we left no stone unturned. There's not someone out there that we missed, because they had a very broadcasted net and helped us define a very diverse and broad pool, but also to winnow that down to people who fit the profile best. At the very beginning, they asked us what our profile should be, and as I started listing the attributes, I could see their eyes getting kind of big, like who in the world could fit this profile, and in the end, we found someone who did fit the profile very well, and so we're grateful for their help. Also want to thank Rich Zavosek, who served as our interim AD during this interim period, and all the coaches and staff members who stepped up to continue doing the job of serving our students and competing while we were in an interim situation. I also want to close by the thank you part by thanking Terry Mahajer. We're a different athletics department because of him. When he returned in 2012 to his alma mater as our athletics director, this building didn't exist, the tower didn't exist, the facilities in many of our sports were not in the position we wanted them to be. He raised a lot of money. Thank you to all of you who are out there that helped us with that. But he also created a vision for Arkansas State, and that vision included a strategy, which was to build the football program, the football facilities, the football enterprise, knowing that the resources we could build there could be used to build other programs as well. There are limits to which the university can fund an athletics program, and Terry understood full well the important role that he would play, and he would play with his partners in creating that vision and having that vision come true. We're standing in a building now that is part of his vision that actually dates back even before my time here 4 years ago. When I first met Terry, we met in the tower that had just been completed, and he shared with me the vision for what later became known as Mahajer Falls, the homage to the natural state, the North End Zone Complex, the loge boxes there, and the Operations Center. And we actually visited some other athletics departments and looked at what they had, stole all of those ideas, and Terry's vision, his drive, his energy allowed us to have those programs. So we're forever indebted to Terry and what he did at Arkansas State University, not just athletics, but the university as a whole. And it's always sad when one of your colleagues leaves, not just a colleague, but to me a personal friend. But we wish Terry and Julie and Maria and Molly and Marco the best of luck in their new endeavors. So early on, I decided that replacing Terry was impossible. There's no one as uniquely qualified as him to replace him. So I basically started from scratch, and I started thinking about what would the next athletics director look like? What attributes would we be seeking? And so I started making a list, and these are not in any particular order. They've kind of evolved over time. But I wanted someone who is a problem solver. We have in athletics, not just here at A-State, but in athletics in general, collegiate athletics, a lot of problems coming in the future. Finances is always an issue. Facilities is always an issue. Creating enough resources to provide scholarships is always an issue. So we need someone who's a problem solver. I need someone who could capture Terry's vision that he had, which started with building on athletics facilities, but carrying those resources now into the other sports. But also Terry's vision was not just oriented towards building facilities, but about enriching the student-athlete experience and the stuff that coaches and staff members need to be successful. So Terry was much more holistic, much more grander than just building facilities. He was trying to enrich the experience for everyone who worked here and who learned here. I needed someone who was a ready partner for the campus. I elevated Terry from athletics director to vice chancellor for intercollegiate athletics on purpose, because in the past, not here, but in the past at intercollegiate athletics departments and athletics directors seemed removed from the heart of campus, the life of campus, almost as an auxiliary to the campus. And Terry had already involved themselves fully in all of what was going on campus, and I wanted to acknowledge that he's a full member of our cabinet and our leadership team, and I wanted someone who understood that this is not an island in and of itself, but something that is an important part of what we're doing here at Arkansas State. I need someone who shared my passion for student success and for competition excellence and accountability. Someone who's built athletic programs and has led those athletic programs to championships. Very important to me. Someone who can address the real needs that we have with some of our facilities, particularly baseball. We've talked about baseball a lot here on our campus, but the interest we have had for a long time in developing an NCAA-sponsored softball program, and about other facility needs that we need in our athletics program. Someone who had a vision for getting us from here to there. If it was easy, we would have done it already. It's not that we have not wanted to do those things, it's that we didn't have the resources to do that. But we need someone who had a vision for how we could get there. someone who's led athletic departments at peer and aspirational programs, someone who understands the complex challenges facing collegiate athletics. You talk about changes in transfer rules and name, image, and likeness and other issues that are facing the NCAA and even conferences. You need someone who understood that and was connected and well-versed in those challenges. Someone who's had a lot of experience hiring and developing coaches and staff members. That was really important to me, not just not a sole focus on students, but also on our staff and coaches as well. And then finally, someone who could connect with students, with our coaching staff, our staff members, our donors, our fans, and the campus community, and the community of Northeast Arkansas and the Upper Delta. We had many highly qualified candidates that we talked to and spent a lot of time with. But Tom, as Chuck said, kept coming to the fore because he hit so many of those profiles. In fact, he hit target. He served 7 years as the AD, 8 years as the AD at San Jose State. He's got a broad amount of experience with building facilities at those places, creating championship teams, and on student success. Seems like the microphone's popping out a little bit. Can you guys hear that? Okay. He also worked at the San Francisco 49ers, UC Berkeley, and St. Mary's College of California, so a broad array of experiences. In the NCAA and in conference leadership category, he has been highly involved in things like the Division I Football Oversight Committee, College Football Playoff AD Advisory Committee, the BCS AD Advisory Committee, and other things like that in the NCAA. He's also highly involved with the founding of the American Athletic Conference. And so this is a person who has a lot of experience at the NCAA, leading conferences, a leader in his field, and someone who he thought was perfectly positioned to lead A State forward to the next level. He has championed student success throughout his career and has a history of developing championship athletic programs. Many of his former staff members, as Chuck mentioned, are actually leading Division I athletics programs now as their athletics director. He's well known and respected throughout the industry. I actually met him a few years ago, and we've interacted in the past, and I was so excited to hear that he was interested in our position. But I got to know him a lot better over the course of this interview process. We spent a lot of hours together. We saw our first time together was on a Zoom. We had an hour-long Zoom, and then we had a series of meetings that probably all told were several, maybe 10 hours of close interaction, and we talked about everything that you could talk about. Talked about my vision for Arkansas State University and for the athletics program. I talked about our Discover 2025 strategic plan, about the important role that athletics can play in there as well. But I also heard from him his vision. He's very aware of what's happening at Arkansas State. He's been on our campus before. He's been in this building before. And so he's aware of the context of Arkansas State athletics and also of this region as well. Having served at Memphis, a campus that is 77 miles away from here, he certainly understands this region. So I also heard from many people. I talked to presidents who had hired him and under whom he served, and also heard from many other people in the industry and across the country that about Tom's leadership and his experience and his attributes. That includes the faculty athletics rep at University of Memphis, who gave a rousing reference as well. As a former faculty athletics rep, that meant a lot to me. Beth and I also enjoyed spending some time with his wife, Mia, and that was important for us to understand and get a great appreciation for him and his family. Glad to have Peter here as well. There's 2 other children that couldn't be here today, but glad to have you all here. Those experiences, that time I spent with Tom, we spent with Mia, and the conversations I had with people around the country led me to believe that Tom and I share the same goals for Arkansas State and for Arkansas State athletics, and he's the right person to lead us forward. It's telling to me that we're having this press conference on Thursday instead of Wednesday when we announced, because he wanted to meet with his coaches first, he wanted to meet with student athletes, he wanted to meet with the faculty athletics representative, and he wanted to meet with the vice chancellors, the leadership team on our campus. He wanted to take care of all that before he came and met with you, and that told me a lot about where he is. Therefore, it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you A-State's 12th athletics director and 2nd vice chancellor for intercollegiate athletics, Tom Bowen. Tom, come up here. So we have to do perfunctory things here, traditional. So Now, I will tell you, when they gave me one of these, I felt the same thing. There's no way I'm fitting in it. My goal has always been to fit into one of these jerseys someday. Yeah, but here's a football jersey for you with your name on it.
That's
Here,
awesome.
let's take a picture here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. You want to take another picture without the... Very good. And then, Mia, come up here for a second. So we also recognize that Tom is not the athletics director of the football team, but all of our sports, and so we wanted you to have a soccer jersey as well. So here's a soccer jersey for you.
I don't think it's going to
Well, it sort of won't fit me, that's for sure. And then, Peter, will you come up here for a second? We want to acknowledge that again, all sports are important. We actually have shirts for all of your kids representing many of our sports. But this is our baseball jersey. We want to make sure you had a copy of that too, or you had a version of that. So. Now, Peter's a senior in high school, so my next job is recruiting the next Bowen to come to Arkansas State. All right, thank you so much for being here. And Tom, the podium is yours.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed with joy, and that's some of the kindest and beautiful things I've seen done in our business in a long time. Thank you. That is my wife, Mia, and that is my son, Peter. My oldest son, Andrew, who's a senior at University of Tennessee, Knoxville, is doing his podcast today because he runs the student radio, and he couldn't get here in time. And my daughter, McKenna, has a massive pre-calculus test at St. Agnes in Memphis, and she couldn't get excuse to come out. So I'm sorry the rest of my family's not here. But let me begin by saying thank you, and especially thank you to the Arkansas State President, Chuck Welsh, and Chancellor Kelly Damphousse, former Governor Mike Beebe, the Chairman of the Board of Trustees, Price Gardner, Johnny Allison, and many others that were part of this search. I had an opportunity to become part of the search, and I'm very fortunate that that happened because of some very good people in our industry, and I want to thank them publicly now, and that's Turnkey ZRG and Chad Chatlos and Katie Young, who reached out to me and asked me if I was interested in becoming a part of Arkansas State. I had been basically running a company called Bellwether, which I was president, and doing a lot of private consulting all across the country, both in the Mid-South and in California. And when I got the call, I said, well, I would love to. But the first call I got was from Terry Mahajer, who told me he was going to University of Central Florida and said, you got to look at this. This is great. You'll love it there. Understand that Terry Mahajer and I are very close colleagues and very close personal friends. And I have been on this campus many times and seen the amazing and unbelievable trajectory change that's taken place at Arkansas State University under Terry Mahajer. I am honored to follow him as the Vice Chancellor of Athletics at Arkansas State, and his legacy will live forever for what he's done, which is build a bedrock of tremendous opportunity and success in facilities and program and strategy that I'm excited to continue to build upon. I actually arrived yesterday and began the day having an opportunity to meet with our faculty athletic rep, Karen McDaniels, and we had a great conversation because I think it's important to understand that my commitment to athletics at Division I and the FBS, and have been doing this a long time, is my most proudest moments happen when our student athletes graduate from our university. And at Arkansas State, our priority will be for our student athletes to graduate, to understand that they're there every day to excel in the classroom, the academic rigor that is part of this great university. And when we compete, to go and compete. Now, I had a chance to meet with the head coaches yesterday, which was very important for me, because all the head coaches are people that are part of this community that we're building, a culture of champions, and will become, because these coaches and I have the same philosophy, that we will be great academic representation as student athletes, and we'll compete for championships as athletes at Arkansas State. The head coaches and I had a great chance to learn a little about each other, and they'll continue as I go through meeting one-on-one with them in the coming weeks. I've actually started today, so I'm here. My company, Bellwether, is now closed, which is great because I'm now the Vice Chancellor of Arkansas State, and we can move forward and build things that I like to do very much, is build a community, build a culture. I had a chance to meet with all the other Vice Chancellors, and they are extraordinary leaders here that Chancellor Damphousse has assembled and brought together. And I think I'm going to be able to work very, very well and build a vision with them together, collaboratively, to continue to move our athletics program forward. Finally, I had a chance to meet with the student athletes last night, which was my decision, because I wanted them to hear from me firsthand how committed I am to building a culture and what we were going to become. How committed I am to give them an opportunity to do something in their families and in their lives that will forever change their trajectory and what they want to become and who they can become. That they will have a degree from Arkansas State University. They will graduate. My last institution, the last 3 years I was there, we had 100% graduation of my student athletes. It matters to me. It matters to me a great deal. Because you can't have excellence in the field of competition, the arena, or on the sports field if you can't have excellence in the classroom, period. We are not athlete students here, we are student athletes. And that has been my career and my focus my entire career. Everywhere I've gone, we've created a culture, and what it does is builds excitement and energy around everything about being a student athlete. Being a student athlete is hard. It's a lot of responsibility. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of work. And as I said to them last night, champions aren't born, they're made. They're made every day. They're made in the days you work when it's cold and dark out and nobody knows, and they're made in the days when you wear our colors and compete against our foe and give them what we call the opportunity to feel who we are, champions. I've been very fortunate in my career to have the opportunity to work at major universities and for great leaders, but most importantly, what I've been most accomplished in my career has been creating an environment, a culture, and a vision. That vision encapsulates all the things that are necessary to be successful. Together with my team, and I have a saying in my staff and my senior leadership team, I am the most unimportant person by myself. And throughout my career, I have built great teams of leaders who are scattered throughout Division I in many, many positions, both as athletic directors, deputy athletic directors, senior associate athletic directors, vice presidents, vice chancellors, and just all around really good people who went on to do really good things. So I've always taken pride in building, creating an environment that focuses on an ideal that I had as a child. A young boy had this ideal. This is ideal I've carried everywhere I've been, at every institution I've been at, whether that was De La Salle High School or St. Mary's College or Cal Berkeley or the NFL with the Niners or San Jose State or Memphis and now Arkansas State. And it goes like this. Nothing's impossible. Impossible is not a fact, it's an opinion. And impossible is temporary. That's the ideal that everyone who works with me comes to be part of my team and is a part of my experience and the culture that we will create together. That's our ideal. Once that ideal becomes infested in what we do and becomes part of who we become, nothing is impossible. In 2012, I told the people at University of Memphis they'd be in a New Year's Day bowl game. I was told it was impossible. When I was at San Jose State, they hadn't been to a bowl game in 27 years. I told them to be in a bowl game in 2 years. They told me it was impossible. Everywhere I've been, when I was at De La Salle High School and I said we could win over 100 football games in a row, I was told it was impossible. Everywhere I've been, every opportunity I've had to lead men and women in athletics is a life-changing experience for me and for them. I'm excited to be part of this amazing university. I love the fact that Arkansas State has given me the honor to serve, because I've watched this development take place for the last 7 years, that I have been a colleague and friend of the former Vice Chancellor, Terry Mohajer. I'm looking forward to the next couple days to start to really dive in and see what we're going to do. There's a lot of things that need to be ready and put together. I think we have an outstanding group of head coaches, and our newest coach, Butch Jones, is a good friend, and I'm excited to be partnering with Butch to continue to build our football program forward to epic heights. I want to thank you all for this opportunity. I'm very blessed to have Chancellor Damphousse and President Welsh as colleagues, and I know hopefully become my friends. I hope you get to know me. I'm also very blessed to have the kind of student athletes I met last night inspired me. I came back to the hotel and told Mia and my son that I had never been in a room where there was that much energy and that much excitement to be great, not to just compete. I did remind him I'm not the director of intramurals and we're not going to, play participation, but they got the message. They're ready to compete and do extraordinary things. So I want to thank you all. It's a great honor to be here. God bless.
okay, can we take a quick break? We're having a minor technical issue with Mike, so we're going to set up a second one, but this is a good opportunity.
Eli Letterman, Arkansas Democrat Gazette. You mentioned your conversation with Terry Mahadra. What did he tell you about this place and this job, and what made it the right place to come after 2 years?
Well, I had a couple opportunities to meet some of the really prominent alumni and supporters in an event I used to do out in California for athletic directors and donors. And I was always amazed at the men and their wives who I got to be with for several days in an event. And Terry would always talk about this place. Now, he would talk about the people. He talked about the chancellor, talked about the president, talked about the cabinet, talked about the community, and talked about what an amazing place Jonesboro would be and could be. Because I asked him a lot of questions. I did a lot of homework. I drove around Jonesboro a lot. I don't know if you saw some guy in a white car driving around, in and out of neighborhoods, but that was me. Because I wanted to learn about the community. I want to know where I'm going to be part of, and I want to be part of the community. So Terry gave me a lot of great advice and a lot of unbelievable accolades about Jonesboro, Arkansas, the community, Arkansas State University, and the people that are part of this. So that's what I want to be part of. I want to be part of a place where it fits. I want to be part of a leadership that I can enjoy and work in collaboration with. Those matter to me.
And the goals that you set when you arrived at Memphis and San Jose State, do you have any very specific goals to throw out today?
Well, we're in collaboration right now. That's why we had a meeting yesterday with all the head coaches to kind of start the process. And so I assume we'll have some soon, and they'll probably mirror what everybody else would like to see us do. Graduate 100% of our student athletes and compete. I have a saying, I told it last night to student athletes, my goal is to have a diploma in one hand and a championship ring on the other. And to me, that's the only goal right now that's tangible and is simple in its form. How to get there takes a lot of work, a lot of grind, a lot of engagement, a lot of sacrifice. It's true. You become a champion through what you do to prepare for the opportunity. You don't just walk out and say, hey, we're champions. And a culture of champions produces winning. So to me, that's the dynamic at play here. The dynamic at play is to create a culture where the confidence is among the coaches, their assistants, the medicine, the training room, the strength, the weight room. It's in the student body. It's in the faculty. It's in part of everything about us. Because we're an ambassador for the university, and we need to be a very good ambassador for Arkansas State University.
Okay, we're going to go to Chris in the back of the room.
Hi, Chris Hutchison, KAIT. You mentioned developing the student athlete. What's just your philosophy on developing coaches and just developing? You had a lot of success there at San Jose State and at Memphis.
I've had a lot of chances to work with some people. So when I was, I guess a couple things that you should know about my background. So when I was at De La Salle High School, I got to work with one of the finest football coaches that you may never know, named Bob Ladouceur, who built a culture, and to be with him and to be an athletic director at 25 years old, running a big-time Catholic high school in the Bay Area and having that kind of national attention was exciting. But what it really was learning how to build it day by day, piece by piece. And I've carried it throughout. And I've had great mentors in my life. When I was with the 49ers, Bill Walsh and I, offices were side by side. And when they wanted an athletic director at San Jose State, I was in the NFL, I was having a pretty good life. Bill Walsh came down to my office and told me I needed to be the AD at San Jose State. And I'm going to tell you, don't tell Bill Walsh no. So you kind of had a chance to be with him, guys like Claude Gilbert, other great coaches. Dick Tomey, my very first football hire in Division I FBS was Dick Tomey at San Jose State. And spent time with him and learning about And football just, I don't apply to football, it applies to everything. All coaches, because you need to learn about their culture. How do they lead young men and women? How do they engage and become an environment of trust, an environment of commitment? And the student athletes have evolved. And how are you dealing with the evolution of student athletes? As the NCAA has put more focus on student wellness, health and nutrition, as it should be, and as it will continue to be, you need to be aware of all the needs and the time commitments and the struggles that student athletes will have now and then. Again, it's hard being a student athlete today, but it's also a most rewarding opportunity if you really want to be an athlete at the highest level in amateur athletics, which is what we are, then it's a great opportunity to compete. And the one thing that former student athletes always say is, I sure wish I had some eligibility left. I sure wish I could play today. Because there's something that happens when you're a student athlete at the collegiate level that doesn't happen anywhere else. And at the highest level in Division I, it's what we try to create. So in developing coaches, you need to find men and women that understand that and believe in that. And see it as it's not about a job, it's about a vocation. It's about a work that's a vocation of what you want to become and what you want to do in the betterment of human beings. And it begins by committing to get them a degree.
Hey, JC Cox, RWRC Radio. I got a two-part question for you. Your current assessment of the facilities as to where they stand right now, what is the biggest improvement that you think from that aspect? And second part of that is, when can we expect you on Twitter? Thanks.
Okay. Well, okay, that's a great one. So the facilities are as fine as I've seen anywhere in the group of five. Certainly there are some autonomy schools that would love to have these facilities, and I would tell you in the American Athletic Conference, this would be up in the top 2 or 3 in total facilities, in total design, in total comprehensive piece, and yet there's still more to do, but those pieces will continue to fall. I was always impressed. AECOM was the designer that designed this facilities and all these facilities. I also had AECOM do my basketball practice facility in Memphis. Those guys are top of the line. And create efficiencies and create cost savings for group of 5 schools. You can't just go and build Taj Mahal and then have a maintenance piece to it that bankrupts you trying to keep it cool or hot or air conditioned or whatever you want to do. So I've always been impressed with how this was done. I would come up here a lot when Terry was doing this because Terry loved to brag about what he had built. So, and then I go back to my place and go, oh, thanks, man. So then finally we finished the one in Memphis, but this is one of the finest facilities. Twitter. I've never been on Twitter. I don't think I'm ever going to be on Twitter. But I think the athletic director should have an official Twitter account so we can tweet whatever you do on Twitter. But I ain't doing it. I'm a face-to-face people person. You can come talk to me. You don't need to use Twitter if you want to get something to say to me. I have an open door policy. I'm totally transparent. Everywhere I've been, I've let anyone and everyone say their piece. Because you have a right to say your piece. If you're invested in, you're giving us your time and energy and your money and your heart and you're cheering for us, you have a right to tell me what you think. Always.
Guys, do we have any more questions from the media? Okay, thank you, Tom.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, Jerry. Sarah Doan, KJMB, Northeast Arkansas News. What is kind of your first goal? You're being introduced today, but what do you hope to tackle first as the new Vice Chancellor for Education?
Well, there's a couple things that are already in motion that have to be dealt with now in the spring of 2021. So post-pandemic reconfiguration and post-pandemic reopening, post-pandemic efficiencies, and are we prepared now to begin the process of reopening spring sports? Are we getting ready for the fall? What would that be? Getting a real understanding where the conference stands and what the Sun Belt Conference is really prepared to do. Address the name, image, and likeness piece. In the last 2 years as a private consultant, I've worked for many universities and presidents, chancellors, and athletic directors working in this whole universe called name, image, and likeness. And with the new federal proposal coming out from the 2 senators in the United States Senate called the Collegiate Athlete Economic Reform Act. So if that passes on a federal level, you now have all the other 37 pieces of introduction of different states and 6 states that are now going to act on it. Fair Play Act, what's going to happen first in August. So I think you have to get really engaged, and you have to get the student athletes engaged, and you have to create awareness and education. So there's going to be an education piece for the head coaches, and I'm sure Terry and his staff are already working on it, so it would be to carry that through, to be that, to do a real assessment on, kind of how's our medicine, how's our strength and conditioning, how's our student welfare, how's our nutrition. Those are really critical things that have to be solved in the spring. You can't address them as the fall season begins because at that time it's too late. And then I will meet with every head coach and allow them one-on-one to sit down and get through kind of the strengths and weaknesses and opportunities and things they want to have addressed. Chancellor Kelly has already given me some great priorities that I'll be able to deal with, to kind of formulate kind of a cohesiveness in what we're going to do. Also finances and looking at our structure and what does that look like. I'm really curious as what the Sun Belt Conference is prepared to do with some of the things going forward. So we want to get kind of in front of that. And I know that Abby has been working as one of our liaison pieces to a big committee in the conference. So I think that answers your question, if it could. Okay.
Tom, you left your last position shortly after signing an extension. I guess what were the circumstances that led to that, and what have you learned in the last 2 years that have prepared you for this role?
Well, first of all, I loved every minute I was at University of Memphis. I'm very, very proud of my accomplishments. My situation was I decided my extension was 6 months, and I decided to move forward and take my career in my hands and reopen my company and begin to do that and do what's best for me and my family. So that's what I did.
Do we have anything else from our media members? I don't want to overlook anyone. Okay, thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
Do we have to redo the pictures real quick?
No, good.
All right, guys, hey, that is going to conclude the press conference. Again, appreciate everyone being here. Thank you to Tom, Kelly, Chuck. Just a quick reminder, we will have all our speakers available for individuals if you need it. But thank you and have a great day.